The time to bask in the light of victory shall not last long, for from the shadows emerge a new threat to our kingdom. A threat that may be more familiar than first imagined.
Bestial horrors stampede through the country in wanton herds. Striking with swift ferocity, they spread chaos, poison, and death. As the land trembles to the drumbeat of thundering hooves, refugees flock to the inns.
The beastmen roam unchallenged. To secure the safety of the kingdom, we must slay the leader of the horde before they overrun the lands. The hunger for flesh present in these abhorrent mutants is matched only by their rage. According to rumors, they use the catacombs to quickly appear, rampage across the countryside, killing, maiming, and feasting. Their proficiency at skirmishes, hit-and-run tactics, and rapid assaults is enough to devastate even organized armies. And our kingdom, still reeling and recovering, cannot hope to withstand another assault. We will learn more about these creatures as the conflict transpires. In the meantime, let us consider the foul half-men we have encountered so far. The majority of the tribe is composed of huntsmen and tribe walkers. The huntsmen wield twin axes with brutal efficiency. They will use them to slash the flesh of their victims, or throw them with surprising precision and force. Depending on the position, they are capable of weakening their victims, making them less resistant to blight, or destroying positive tokens. The tribe walker is a disgusting amalgamation of animal and man. A mace is the weapon of choice for him. He makes use of his foul play ability to spread blight and generate riposte tokens for himself, focusing on mobility, shifting forwards or back in the ranks. He is even able to stress and stun our defenders should he land a critical hit with his outcry and outrage abilities. In terms of the beastman disease or infection, these two are in the early stages of the ailment. It begins with boils or lesions filled with pus, gestating on the left side of the body. As the disease progresses, it will spread further. The infected begin to grow horns from atop their heads. Their legs are replaced with hooves, and their teeth turn into fangs. If this sounds familiar, we have seen this condition before with one of our heroes, Bigby, the Abomination. According to his lore, he was bitten by a creature and began to turn, but through alchemy, he was able to develop a serum to halt the disease. Does this imply that the condition could be reversed? I don't believe so. While it's similar, it's the differences that matter the most. More on this later. Every member of this repugnant pack is violent by nature, but the key to their strength is in their rage. As the battle progresses, they will generate rage. Once they have 3 rage tokens, they will enter into a berserk state. In this state, the beastmen are impervious to attacks. Their resistance to bleed, blight, and burn damage increases, and they've unlocked more devastating attacks to be used against our heroes. Fortunately, the effects have a short lifespan, and afterwards, the beastman will be weakened and ripe for a counterattack. Alternatively, stunning them while in the berserk state will negate them from attacking, and the beastmen will still suffer the penalties from berserk. The first step in thinning the herd is to gain accurate insight into their movements. We can anticipate their path of destruction, knowing where to avoid, and perhaps where best to be. At an elevated point, we peer through the spyglass and draw a crude sketch of the pack's direction. With a hand-drawn map in tow, we must take it to the nearest inn and let the local tacticians study the new knowledge brought before them. With the understanding of where the horde moves comes the understanding of where the horde will strike. and so we must prepare the vulnerable inns targeted by them. The stagecoach will be deputized by the ambulancy designation and sent to gather healers from field hospitals and medical supplies from merchants with a surplus of goods. The bandages, ointments, and tinctures will serve as bulwarks against injury and infection. The healers, haggard and exhausted though they might be, are determined to be the first line of defense against this pestilence, and will assist where they are needed most. Ultimately, that will be after the latest skirmish involving the Beastmen at a besieged inn, where we shall slay the savages and provide succor to the downtrodden. Among those saved will be a young child. Through her sorrow, she will tell us that her father has been abducted by a huntsman at a nearby field hospital, with a kidnapping being rather unusual behavior to what was previously assumed about the tribe's goals. With no other leads available, we have our next quest, a rescue mission. Take the child's plea to the nearby field hospital to see if anyone witnessed the abduction. The healers there will tell us that the Beastmen don't just kill their victims, they indeed kidnap them too. They dragged the poor man from out of her care. For what purpose? I have a feeling we will soon wish we didn't know. She mentions that the kidnappers were operating out of one of the hollows where rabid animals made their home, thus making a creature den our next destination. To offer extra assistance, she will bring out decomposing scraps of rotten meat, bundled into a pungent offal. The rancid meat might provide a distraction to the Beastmen. Once the vermin at the den have been purged, the kidnappers will make their presence known, and after using the pungent offal on a huntsman, we will be able to distract them long enough to rescue the wounded survivors, among which is the girl's father. Delirious and rambling, he mutters of cruelty and sadism, of flesh-eating beastmen and their insatiable appetite for rotten meat. The survivors are in a belligerent state. We must return them to an inn so they can receive treatment and regain their senses. Once they are stabilized, we will hear the survivors' tale about their time in captivity under the Beastmen. He speaks in low, ragged breaths, his tale gruesome and chilling. The Beastmen are sick and dying, rampaging and murdering, only to return to feed once the meat has begun to rot. It is here where we will gain the most insight into the Beastmen. These repulsive barbarians are feasting, but not on fresh meat as we once theorized, but on the rotten cadavers of the victims they have slain or tortured in captivity. The herd moves across the kingdom, leaving a trail of bodies behind, but after the kill, they will wait. Wait for the meat to spoil just enough to be enticing. Then the feasting begins. This will be the cornerstone of our counterattack against them. We also learn that they are sick and dying. Perhaps the disease they are afflicted with is rotting them away from within, and they consume rancid meat to stave off the degeneration. Just a theory, of course. I doubt we could truly understand something so primal. Whatever is ailing these men, and I do specify men since all beastmen are male, is something far more insidious than just a mere plague. I did say that the need to consume rotten meat would be the downfall of these beasts, and the war masters at the inns never cease to amaze with their inventive, albeit unorthodox strategies. To stop the herd, we must starve them out. The requirements of their survival cannot be met on an empty stomach after all. Scour each region for their victims' bodies before they rot too badly. We will preserve them in cold storage for the next phase of the plan. As we gather the bodies, we will learn more about the victims and the carnage left in the wake of a rampage by the hoof, horn, mace, and axe. The back of the skull is caved in. Bone and brain turn to pulp. A chunk of chest and shoulder left to rot in the sun. The chest is caved in, ribs splintered into the lungs. The blood is mixed with some greenish, foul-smelling ooze. The rips in the skin scream of jagged talons, shredded by tooth and claw. Festering flesh, slick with fluid and rot. The hand of a practiced pianist. The arm of a soldier, powerless and putrid. An artist's eye torn from its socket. The remains of a well-muscled leg. A mangled foot, ripped free at the ankle. A pound of flesh, sinew, muscle, and tendon. Innards, guts, viscera. And finally, this lump of sinew and muscle is unidentifiable. No one is spared from this chaos. No one. By this point, we will begin encountering the more menacing members of the herd, the tribe callers and the rot claws. The tribe caller is the equivalent of a shaman to the beast clan. This creature focuses on stress damage, blighting and empowering his clan while weakening ours. He acts in the role of support, generating enragement for his fellow beastmen, angering himself when his allies are struck, and raining acid with violent skies. The Rotclaw is a fearsome sight to behold. This horned brute can inflict horror on his opponents and work himself into a frenzy, giving himself enraged tokens. The Rotclaw is the bruiser of the Beast Clan. These savage creatures rip through their victims with their claws, teeth, and horns. Eager to eviscerate, they can inflict bleed and blight damage while they trample their victims with their thundering hooves. They also tend to have a penchant for taunting us and growing more and more violent in response to being struck. These beastmen are in the final stages of the infection. By this point, the individual is far more beast than man. Feral creatures, they increase in aggression and in appetite. There are still signs of intelligence, but no more humanity. They take on the attributes of a goat, with horns and elongated faces, but there is no mistaking them for prey, as the putrid devils slay like any apex predator. The Rotclaw in particular resembles our dear Bigby when in his abomination form. But I remind you, while it is similar, it's the differences that matter the most. I know you can see them. The appearance of multiple black eyes. It reminds me of something I saw once in the estate. There was this amalgamation of flesh, human and beast, in an underground aqueduct that was covered in black eyes. I recall a raven or shrieker that also possessed those features. Finally, underneath the manor, in the darkest dungeon, we saw many eyes. Could there be a connection? Were they a spawn of that horrid malignant? Or did they just happen to devour something that made them this way? Without knowing the way back, we can only speculate and fear. Enough talk about half-imagined lands and things that may or may not even exist. This meat is gonna stink up the inn if we wait around any longer. It's time to cull the herd. Bundle the poor victims of slaughter into sacks and wraps. We will set them onto the stagecoach. Allure to the beastmen. Incongruent remains, lashed ignominiously together in a putrid mass of rot and bloat. Bait for the beast. With their hunting grounds empty, the despicable horde will be drawn to the smell of the rotting dead like flies to dung piles. They will try to set up ambushes along the routes to stop the stagecoach, but we will be prepared for the onslaught. After being one step behind this whole time, it's a refreshing change of pace to have them chase after us instead. As each of the beastmen are felled by our swords, we will skin them for their beast hides. With their food stocks ever dwindling, and their tribe being decimated, the Alpha Rockclaw will deem it necessary to step forward and obliterate this threat to the tribe personally. The Alpha's den will appear, and we will battle our way to face him in his camp. The Alpha Rockclaw, true to its name, is as tough as they come. Stronger, fiercer, and his rabid rage knows no limits. They are the leaders of their respective packs as they rip across the countryside. However, they are just another step in the hierarchy of the Beast Clan. Butcher the Alpha and mount his head on the stagecoach. This display of dominance and terror will make the lesser members of the tribe flee in terror. Flee to the one that truly holds the leadership position in this wretched collective of mutated malignants. Their patriarch. The lair of the Beast Clan is in the tundra. It would make sense. Residing in the tundra will keep the cadavers of their victims from rotting too quickly, and possibly their own flesh from degenerating. As we move through the camp, we will see bags of flesh they have hung from posts, a potential meal stored for future cravings. After dispatching a few remaining members, we will come face to face with the patriarchy of the clan, a being of gargantuan size. Meat Hook. He is covered in necrotic flesh and lesions. His right hand has been amputated, possibly to prevent the disease from spreading. Unfortunate for him, because regardless of where an individual is bitten, it spreads from the left. And in his left hand, he wields a meat hook from which he takes his name. In battle, he wields the hook with barbaric strength, gouging his victims on the curved blade, pulling them closer to be stomped on by his hooves. Throughout the confrontation, he will occasionally turn to a meat post and gorge himself on the delicacies, empowering himself with the rotting remains of his victims. After his berserk state, he will use exhaustion to regain some lost health. This is a true test of endurance. And yet, for all his fury, he is not without weaknesses and vulnerabilities. Like all his followers, using Bleed, Blight, and particularly Burn, in combination with stunning him while he is in his berserk state, will keep him contained and slowly chip away at his health. With his death, the tribe will be in ruins. It will take a season or two before another patriarch tries to fill the hoofprints of Meat Hook. The Beastmen no longer roam unchallenged. Our kingdom and its champions are ready to stand fast against the bestial horde. The refugees that once flocked to the inns now take up arms to defend their homes. The Beastmen will be among wolves now. These are our woods, our lands, and our light that shall force the shadows back. The time to bask in the light of victory shall not last long, for the shadows give way to a new threat to our kingdom. A threat that may be more familiar than first imagined. The ones that lurk in these shadows, a coven of witches whose vile practices weave a web of deception, confusion, and doubt. They must be dragged out into the cleansing light.